Hey there! On the Do Roboti channel, today's episode will be dedicated to railroading. We'll show you the work of a train driver, and I know you're going to right now, Wojtek, but we've already had this job on Do Roboti. It got over 3 million views. And that's true, we've already shown that kind of job, but it was on an older type of locomotive. Today we'll be riding a dragon-type locomotive.
I think that someone who doesn't like this job won't last long here.
I can see what I'm doing.
Grab the harness with your left hand.
I can't.
We brake, and then there's this moment of helplessness. We can't do anything more about it. At a speed of 160, there's no chance to stop. On the railway, there are no sharp turns, only curves. 5-1, 40, 32, understood, no departure. It was always the case that profits from freight transport offset the losses from passenger transport.
The expert for today's episode will be Pavel, a train driver with over 30 years of experience. Welcome.
Hi Wojciech.
We met quite early, 7 in the morning.
That's normal for us on the railway.
What's the plan for today?
Combat task, prepare the locomotive, prepare the train, and take this train as far as possible.
As far as possible. So it's not certain where we'll end up?
No, you never know that. We're limited by time, 12 hours of work, and if we manage to reach a station within those 12 hours where I have a friend on the route, that's how far we'll go. If not,
then we'll swap with another engineer, yes.
Another authorized engineer with the route will come.
So shall we get to work?
To work?
To work. A new locomotive, I think, so clean.
Recently in July I picked it up from the factory myself.
Also personally, I can see your name on the locomotive too.
A small gesture from the company towards distinguished employees, and the inscription, mine, not entirely, was actually made by my daughter Martinka.
So you both signed this locomotive together? As I can see at the very beginning, I brought up the idea. We already did an episode with an older type of locomotive, which I can even see somewhere here on the tracks. What is the difference you see, let's say, between the old type and the new one? The toilet is,
Then I invite you. On this locomotive there isn't one. Also there isn't on this one, there isn't on other locomotives there are toilets, so nothing has changed here. We still have to be close to nature in such situations. How is the locomotive different? The wheels are the same. Well, I'm saying the wheels, yes, the body is the same, but everything else besides that is already a little different. There's a different solution instead of mirrors, a camera view of what's happening on the side, behind us, on the track, in front of us. Also, there's a view of the pantograph, which is very useful in case of any pantograph mirrors.
The locomotive is electric.
Electric. This one in particular is electro-diesel, of the last mile type, with a small auxiliary engine, which allows us to perform the so-called last mile, shunting wagons onto sidings or tracks where there is no power.
Is it the case that you always know which machine you will be driving? For example, today this one signed by you, is it assigned to you and you always drive it? Or is it not like that?
No, it's a lottery. I always find out the day before my shift where I will be working, which train, and on which locomotive. We have universal locks here. Each of the drivers has their own key for the locomotive. So please come in, and before we enter, please put on a cap or helmet just in case you don't hit your head. Please come in.
I'll go first, yes.
After you.
Letting the guest go first is already modern, so stay until the end of the episode. Because if you saw that material about the train driver's job, well, the work might be similar, but the equipment is completely different. Oh my, it really is different. The cabin is definitely different than in the train I saw before. The first thing I notice is that there's no steering wheel.
There isn't. We don't steer. Here we go, wherever the tracks take us. Besides, just like on the old locomotive, that wheel isn't for steering. The steering issue is handled with this lever, which sets the speed. And additionally, we brake electrodynamically. Electronics take care of everything for us. This makes the locomotive less likely to break down. The downside might be that if a failure occurs, unlike with an older type of locomotive, the engineer, with his knowledge, could do something about it. But here, just like with a computer at home, we do a reset, and if the situation stabilizes, we keep going. If there's a serious problem, then all we have left is the service team.
Either we call and manage to fix something, or we just get off. Yes, on an older type of locomotive. There was a stove here, I don't know if it was used or not, but I also see, let's say, a little kettle here. So there are some conveniences.
Yes, the amenities here are slightly better than on older locomotives. Additionally, we have a microwave and there's also a fridge, not just a regular fridge, but a fridge heater. It heats on top and cools on the bottom. We've got a bit of time, so you can heat up some dumplings. Here you go.
You have to, but there isn't any. Maybe later to the restroom, but overall...
But you have to eat after all.
Yeah, you have to eat, but what else? I think we'll go into the heart of this train in a moment, because after that, it's our job. Checking everything, you know, getting to work.
There's energy, the locomotive is coming to life, the computers are starting up.
Based on your experience as a 30-year-old man, how do you feel about operating this new equipment? It's pretty cool, right?
Definitely cooler. Switching to new equipment was a big leap. As you know, when older people bought their first computers, it was like, don't touch it, you'll break it. Yeah, maybe there was a bit of a mental block. However, over time, after getting to know Locomotiva, it's definitely a better option than the older machines, so I recommend it.
You honestly said whether you could really come to work in a white shirt and drive. Well, looking at these machines, all of them, not even a drop of grease on them, nothing leaking, it's just beautiful, isn't it?
And that's basically how it is with all the new locomotives. As long as nothing bad happens here, like a leak in some circuit or system. Because here, oil and fluids flow everywhere in the pipes, so there's really nowhere to get dirty. Yes, as we're walking through the locomotive, we can also check a few things. Here we have the compressor, and in the compressor we can check the oil level. It's at half, which means it's okay. Next we have the pneumatic panel. Behind me there's a container with a diesel generator. That's the small auxiliary engine we talked about, which makes our lives much easier. Here basically it's a small engine, well, small for a locomotive. It's a small engine, but it has 520 horsepower. If it's a light train, we can run on it all day long. Nothing bad will happen. We're only limited by the power and the weight of the train. Fuel, well, yes, it's the amount of fuel. Definitely we have this cool thing here. Ecology has made its way onto the locomotive. This is the AdBlue tank for this engine. There's a tank at the bottom where you pour in the AdBlue, and then you use this nozzle to fill the tank, so that the engine can draw it from this tank and satisfy our environmental requirements. I'm looking,
Pavel, at all these modern technologies, and I'm addressing the viewers here who may have also been working in the railway industry for say 30 years, just like Pavel. Let us know if you've ever dealt with such modern trains, what you think about them, whether you believe these technologies are necessary and interesting, or if you prefer riding in the older types of equipment. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure railway enthusiasts are watching, so I'm interested in your opinions. And what about you, Pavel? What do you think? Do you feel this is already a soulless product, or does technological progress not matter to you?
there's no need to be upset. The world is changing and this locomotive is definitely more comfortable for us. And if we looked at it that way, then we'd have to go back to steam locomotives and keep shoveling coal into the firebox. I've had the chance to be on a steam locomotive a few times. Thank you, I prefer this locomotive, I prefer this fridge heater, air conditioning, heating, silence, and no drafts. You can keep a bit of tradition, but let it stay in museums and retro trains.
And what do we have next?
Everything that's in blue, you know, pneumatics, air tanks. What we have here are the cooling towers for the traction engines. Obviously, traction engines generate energy and need a lot of air for cooling. Most of the sounds coming from this locomotive, the noises, are actually the result of these cooling towers working, which operate depending on the temperatures reached by the engines. Maybe they don't make noise for us, but from the outside it's noticeable. Next, we have high voltage devices, inverters, converters. Here the driver doesn't really have anything to do.
We have bags with this?
With flour, yes. So if we run out of rolls, we bake some buns. This is our wartime sand reserve. The locomotive weighs 120 tons, which may seem like a lot. The contact between the wheel and the rail is minimal because you can't fit something round to something flat very well, and the locomotive is prone to slipping.
Automatic sanding, yes.
This locomotive spreads sand by itself if the wheel set starts to slip. And here we have the second analog cab.
If I were going the other way, we would simply switch over. Yes.
Yes, we changed the cab. Let me just see where the key is.
That's interesting, Pavel, that you have a second kettle and microwave here, so you don't have to move them even though it's a short distance. Some might think you can heat things up there too.
The employer takes care of us, the kettle. Wire transport doesn't cost much these days, so you don't have to carry it around. It's also a good idea to check the logbook to see if your predecessor happened to note any malfunction that would prevent the locomotive from starting. There's nothing like that here, so we can safely start the locomotive. We'll start the locomotive so we don't drain the batteries.
I'm starting it. I'm starting the locomotive.
Start the locomotive.
What, so many turns or something? Come on.
Turn it to the right, watch out.
Tak.
And now we see warning signals from the active monitor, which means it's a safety system. Yes, this is the famous device that does what? On old locomotives, you have to reset it every minute, not always exactly every minute, but new locomotives sometimes require it more often. The rule is
that we click,
or we don't have a reset button. And the safety relay has turned off, so if you press it again, the SKP will turn off too, which means both of these systems are now deactivated. First we need to raise the pantographs up. The rear pantograph, yes, up. On the high voltage voltmeter, we have a reading of almost 3,500 volts. Forward, yes, forward, up. That's right, a forward impulse and the main circuit breaker turns on, which is the main protection of the locomotive.
We have about 19,000 kilometers on it.
Yes, that's its mileage, so it's negligible. Almost just broken in.
It all takes time, I have to say.
Well, a little bit.
Supposedly we come to work about an hour earlier, before we walk around the whole train, before we start everything up, but you just can't speed up these processes.
No, of course, if I'm alone I do it faster. Yes, that's true, but since I'm with you I want to show you this and that. It takes a little more time, so we have to wait for it. We can check the radio stop system and we'll hear the same sound again. The same sound appears when someone uses the radio stop system while the locomotive is moving. The train suddenly brakes, and that's the sound we hear on the radio.
Do you talk to someone there, or just in certain situations?
You mean, do we gossip? No, gossiping is definitely forbidden. Do we ask if they hear us? No, definitely not. No. We'll go downstairs, check if everything's okay down there, and then we'll keep having fun.
So what do we have to check before we leave, before we start?
Basically, we check visually if anything bad has happened. The rule is that usually it's just dusty during normal operation, but if it's shiny, it means something has broken off. Yes, that's how it is. The easiest way is to find an element that has been damaged. The sanders we talked about, that's exactly this device. Here you can see there's sand, it's sand of the right granulation, and you must not put beach sand in here. So 0.20, 0.3 mm, that works best. Okay, what is this? This one? This is an SHP generator, one of the alertness devices, which works on the principle of meeting at a resolution. If this generator passes over the resonator, which is placed by the rail, on top we get a signal. The red SHP light comes on, 3 seconds, a light and 3-tone sound signal. If we don't react, the train brakes. This also interests us because we refuel the locomotive at railway energy stations, the famous AdBlue, which we've already talked about. At the front of the locomotive there's a draw hook. Like in every locomotive, 2 sets of air hoses, a control hose with 10 atmospheres and a brake hose with 5 atmospheres. A socket for heating the train in case we work with a passenger train. This is a strictly freight locomotive, but it can also pull passenger trains and those need a power socket. And the other side, similarly exactly the same.
It's worth staying until the very end. We haven't even started this locomotive yet, so we'll be here for a bit longer today. Stay until the end, but right now, leave a thumbs up. What did we check?
Welcome back to the top. Guest goes first, as we said.
Here you go, it's high. These doors are high. I have to say they're very thick. It's almost like being in some kind of safe.
The constructor takes care of us. It's also a matter of safety. Pressure issues arise when 2 trains pass each other. We don't travel like the Eurostar at 300 kilometers per hour, but the Pendolino next to us can go at 250 kilometers per hour. Yes, okay. And that pressure impact is very strong. On some locomotives, there's even cabin pressurization, either automatic or manual. For example, when entering a tunnel at high speed. In addition, there's protection against magnetic fields. Let's not forget there's a lot happening, lots of electronics. We start the locomotive, report in, and head to the train. It's time.
It's time, it's time. Now I'm going to have some of those, quite a few comparison points with that episode we did 34 years ago. That we've come straight here to the locomotive and we can move it now. Back then, I remember we still had to take care of some paperwork in the office, bring something, sign things before we even got to the train. Is that dependent on the company we work for, or are there different systems now?
It depends. Every company has its own rules. When it comes to preparing documents in our case, the shipping documents are prepared halfway by the sender of the shipment, and the other part of the documents is prepared by our inspector, who will come soon. As soon as we arrive at the train, he will start his work and then prepare them for us in our company. The dispatch office in Gdansk manages the whole country. So for example, if a train driver started in Katowice and had to come to Gdansk to get the work scheduled, that would be a problem. Definitely, the old systems like in PKP Cargo come from the fact that the network of dispatches and facilities is still quite large. Alright, there's nothing left for us to do but release the parking brake.
And get going.
No, not yet, not completely. I'm like this.
Impulsive.
What haven't we done, in your opinion?
We released the brake, started the locomotives, turned the key. We just need to talk to someone. Of course we're moving.
Not yet?
Not yet. We checked the systems.
We checked the systems, the locomotive is braked, and we still need to do something so we don't derail.
We need to take those safety devices.
Exactly. We need to do it beforehand.
But all right. So we watched there.
So we were there. So I'm going. I'm in the front, one in the back. That means we're doing shunting work the old way. Before we report to the dispatcher, it's good to check if the locomotive wants to cooperate with us. Nothing's wrong, the locomotive wants to go, so there's nothing left for us to do but report.
I got stressed because we were talking about technologies, whether they're a plus or a minus, and the technology started acting up.
But it's okay, I think not. I would ask Ludzem to track 21 from the GPA side for the set, okay?
All the best.
A quick update.
Go ahead, sir.
With a little zigzag, you have to get to the other side of the station.
We're riding on literally brand new tracks. It's hard to say the rails are bad, but it's really so nice and so pleasant to ride here. We're gliding on these tracks, literally. You could say, it's really pleasant to ride in such a train, not a train. Well, actually, because I think you keep saying that a train is the whole set.
Yes, this is a locomotive.
So, a locomotive. And so that you, dear viewers, don't catch me on my words, we're educating ourselves here. So a locomotive by itself is just a locomotive. A train is a locomotive with carriages.
Next, check the driver's orientation, forward or backward. To confirm, open the door and see if a white light is shining on the rear dwarf signal, similar to the front.
Wait, what are you asking, or what should I look at?
At such a warning signal, where is the blue light here?
Well, that's blue.
It's further blue.
It's blue, yes.
GTB to Lorient premises under shield 423. That's what the other side meant, thank you. So we have to change the cabin again.
But we're really walking a lot, aren't we?
Well, to get to ride, first you have to walk a lot. And what about them?
They automatically switch the track for us.
Yes, the traffic controller has it all on a computer panel now.
All the trains that are positioned here somewhere are on some kind of map, GPS, so when they switch the tracks now, they know exactly where we are.
The traffic controller can monitor the occupancy of each track section. Every section of track is isolated, and if there's a locomotive or a wagon there, the traffic controller sees it on the panel.
Somewhere ahead, where we're going, there are wagons already set up, and it's the traffic controller's job to guide us to them.
Yes, to the track we've requested.
Ask for 5,240.04.
And now we're going back to the front cabin again.
Olamion under 159. Reporting to GPS. Could you tell me again which track it was supposed to be?
To track 21. Pierwszy.
Good thing he didn't tell us to wait 2 hours until he remembers, but we already have the white light again, so we can go.
But it's always better to make sure.
To ask our fellow wagons.
Soviet science also knew such cases, so...
And did you have such cases?
No, I personally never stole any wagons from anyone.
We're not talking about theft, just a simple mistake.
About the temporary borrowing. So our wagons have been found, now we're slowly catching up.
No, sir. With this kind of technology, you can move with millimeter precision, so what now?
Now we have to connect the locomotives to the train. In a moment, our colleague Martian, our inspector, will come, and for a while he'll be in charge here. He'll be conducting technical inspections and a detailed test of the train's brakes.
We haven't shown this kind of work on the channel, so today we'll also join Martian, the inspector, to show not only the driver's job, but also how the whole train is checked.
As you can see, we have two sets of pneumatic hoses. The yellow one, 10 atmospheres for control, and the red one, 5 atmospheres from the main brake pipe. On the wagon, we only have the red one, so it's clear what goes where, red to red. But you need to stand with your back to me, take the hose from this holder, grab the handle with your right hand, but be careful. There's a vacuum, so it doesn't pop out and you don't get hurt. There's just air, there's air, it has water. Similarly, on the other side, now we're dealing with the screw coupling, and hook it on so you don't pinch your finger. On this bar there's a turnbuckle that we use to tighten the screw coupling. As I said earlier,
That the coupling is so clean you could do it in a shirt.
but not here, not right now. And now we have to connect these two heads together, about like this. Oh good, yeah, that's good, and that's the whole trick. Now we have the locomotive connected, we go back to the cabin and fill the brake pipe with air.
If you see the cars moving on their own and the locomotive going by itself, if they get detached, it's definitely not my fault.
The train is still secured with handbrakes and we turn to the left. What?
Not every car.
Two cars will be behind the engine. I got scared of the train. I saw from our side.
I warmly welcome you.
Hi, Marcin Wojtek.
It's a pleasure.
Today we will be doing a technical inspection and a detailed brake test on the train. First we will check how we connected the locomotive to the set of cars.
I did it, so we'd better check it thoroughly.
So let's see if we have everything. The valves are open, I don't hear any air leaks at the coupling, it's good. After stopping the train, the driver's main brake valve is set to the cutoff position and the pressure drop in the train is checked. And if at the moment the leak test is completed, the train is released and at my command the driver performs a service brake application. And then we will go and check if all the cars in the train have braked properly, so let's brake for the test. And now the train is braked. We perform the test by checking if all the brake pads have reached the wheel sets and if the train has been braked. Wheel by wheel, wheel by wheel.
All the way to the end.
All the way, and from the other side the same way. That's why there's a lot of walking. As you noticed, the Dragon locomotive has the ability to pull practically anything. This is probably one of the most powerful electric locomotives currently running with a locomotive in Poland. It's like this: every locomotive can pull anything, but not every locomotive can get it moving. The most important element in the dynamics of train movement is to get it started from a standstill.
That's right. Let me see how it is.
If I can hear anything, well, listen.
The sound is just sound to me. When it comes to settling accounts with you, are the rates similar to those for an auditor or train driver, or is it a completely different industry?
Train drivers definitely win here when it comes to rates, because this is the most prestigious position. But auditors, let me say this: if they have the right approach to work and the right negotiation skills, there's a need for that too, okay?
Unless they're at the back of the train like we are now.
What we have are end-of-train signals which have to be properly installed so you can tell where the train ends.
All right, let's put them in.
And now we have to go back the other way.
Well, another 700 meters ahead of us, my friends. I'm already looking forward to the train driver's job, but we still have to finish the inspector's work.
Alright, Mr. Powell, we can release it. And we'll go on another walk, this time in the other direction. We can pick up the pace a bit so we make it in time for dinner. Well, I think if we manage to finish by 12 o'clock...
I think we'll make it by 11 o'clock or 15 o'clock.
Well, there's a chance that if you leave before 12 o'clock, you can definitely get pretty far. Also because in the afternoon, unfortunately, we're in the Tri-City area and there's a lot of passenger train traffic starting. So later on, getting any freight train through the Tri-City becomes problematic.
That's not good, Mr. Martian. Let's pick up the pace.
Let's pick up the pace. That's right. We'll also have a bit of math here, right after this math. The train driver will report readiness to the traffic controller, and I will still have to take the R7 document to the signal box, and only then will I give permission for this train to depart from the stop. Mr. Train Driver, are the brakes in order? I'm going to the second cab to do the paperwork. I'll be right back. The documents are ready. Yes?
We've walked around, so now it's a bit of office work.
But a bit of math. Exactly. We have the cargo weight alone at 1,946 tons, and with the locomotive it's 2,739 tons. Alright, so at this point we have the documents finished. I'm going to the engineer now.
Because it's almost 12 o'clock, my dear friends.
So we finished exactly when we were supposed to.
My dear friends, Martian went to our train driver, whom we'll return to in a moment. What we showed in this episode about the train driver's job and about the inspector is just a fraction of the work we've recorded here. So be sure to click the link that appears both in the description and in the pinned comment. Check out the full material about the inspector's job. There we talk about the rates, the earnings, and how to become an inspector so it's worth it. We didn't want to extend this topic in the material about the train driver. Click on that link and check out the second special material, or wait until the very end of this episode and watch that episode. Honestly, Pavel, I took more steps than we traveled. I think with this locomotive you spend more time waiting than actually riding it so far.
Yes. This is the stage of preparing the train, which we have already completed. We are registered. Now we are waiting for what the traffic service, which is the leading service, will do. The section dispatcher has to give permission to go, but we have to wait until there is a route for our train.
We started at 7, work, it's 12 o'clock now. By the time everything was loaded, attached, checked, well, like I said, a lot of time has passed. Every line, let's say, that you travel on, looks like this. Would switching with another train driver make it easier?
If we switch on an already running train, it takes just a few minutes for it to continue, as long as there are no traffic obstacles. Towards you, of course.
Bufka still counts for you. Let's say we've used 6 of the 12 hours, and since we haven't started yet, that's just how it is.
Sometimes it happens that we don't move at all. That's how it is. On one shift you might cover 500 or 600 kilometers, and on another you might not cover even a single kilometer. For the company, it's better for the train to run than sit idle, since that's money. This costly equipment needs to pay for itself. For the client who wants to have the goods, it's better, and we're here primarily to satisfy the client, and of course our company as well. Yes, that's what we're paid for, not for standing around, but for driving, and if sometimes we have to stand, that's not our fault.
We're just waiting for the signal now. You reported we're ready, right?
We've been reported and are waiting for our route to be set. It's ahead of us. A freight train just left a moment ago, so maybe when it completes a reasonable run, maybe then we'll go.
Now we have the pantograph raised, so we're using electricity the whole time while we're stopped here.
Yes, yes.
Someone is paying for this electricity now.
We as carriers are paying for this electricity, okay, you as carriers. The consumption is flat rated, energy consumption is settled based on the length of the route, yes, kilometers, and the weight of the train. We pay this to the Polish railways, to the infrastructure owner. We purchase the timetable for a given train, this and that gross on such and such a route. And there are algorithms that calculate the average electricity consumption based on this quickly.
If there are about 30 wagons behind us converting that, let's say, into tonnage, how many trucks would have to drive on Polish roads?
Carrying what this train has depends on the type of trucks. Yes, well, of medium size, because basically the biggest ones probably carry 35 tons, the medium ones 20, so about 100 trucks would have to be used for transport.
100 ciężarówek, 100 kierowców?
Yes.
I think it will still be a plus, definitely to the disadvantage of the railway.
What's the startup procedure? Do we just start it up and go, or is there anything else we need to pay attention to?
The train set stands out mainly because it has preserved carriages far away. They didn't get far, in fact, they didn't even move from the spot. The signal was so that no one would walk in front of the locomotive.
So you've been in the industry for over 30 years, but you mentioned that it's not just freight trains, you also have experience with passenger trains?
Yes, I spent about half of my career in passenger service, exactly 15 years, and 15 years in freight service.
What do you think? What's better? What's worse? How do they compare?
In passenger service, time and speed matter. The engineer doesn't really think much about what's happening behind, except maybe when braking, because obviously he has to stop exactly where he needs to. And of course it's good to do it smoothly and gently, so the passengers don't have to grab onto anything in the carriage. However, in freight service, the engineer has to think more about what's happening behind than in front sometimes. Especially with heavy trains, on difficult routes when transporting materials like we have today, fuel, liquid substances that are constantly moving around. Here he also has to think about what's happening behind, because one poorly executed braking and we could tear the train into several pieces. Sometimes the train wants to roll back and you have to be smart enough to know that any careless action or any sudden movement with the train can cause it to break apart.
I think it's the opposite. With people in back you have to think, but with just cargo, it's like hauling potatoes.
Of course we think about it because it's a big responsibility. I once had a conversation with a bus driver and he said back when I was still working in passenger transport that he also drives kids to summer camp. I said, well, yes, but I carry 1,500 kids on one train, and you can't fit that many into a bus.
So is the responsibility really the same?
It's the same. Of course, every life is equally valuable. In the railway, there are no irresponsible jobs. Everything has to come together. Everything has to work perfectly.
Why did you switch from passenger to freight trains?
I won't hide it. Everything used to come down to finances. Today, the differences aren't that big, but 15 years ago, it was several times more. So money, simply put. But what?
And here we're train drivers, and there we're train drivers, so what? Passenger train drivers used to earn, for example, much less back then.
Yes, that's how it was. In the early days, when private carriers were getting their licenses, their biggest problem was with the human factor. They simply didn't have train drivers, they didn't have employees. And that was also one of the factors that made the salaries there a bit better than elsewhere.
That's understandable. On a passenger train, you never really know how many tickets will be sold or how many people will be in the back. Here, once we have the job and know what we're hauling, we also know how much was paid for it, right?
Yeah, that's how you approach some tender contracts.
Well, whether the train carries one passenger or 6, the work looks the same, but it earns a lot less.
But for the most part, it's subsidized either by local governments or by the state. Passenger rail as such, in this global, nationwide sense, is generally not profitable. In the old days, when it was one conglomerate, one company, because when I started that's how it was, there was no division between freight and passenger traffic. I could start in the morning on a freight train, go for example to, I don't know, Iwawa, and come back on an express train. Yes, there were those schedules just for the engineers, yes, arranged like that, yes, because it was one company, yes. It was always like this. The profits from freight transport offset the losses from passenger transport, and somehow it all worked.
We just found out 2 hours later that we still have 3 more hours to wait here. It's a total disaster. We traveled less than 600 meters and I was already happy, already greeting Gonska.
We were almost there. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. We had a run scheduled, but we missed it because there were problems with the voltage. And now we have to wait for the next window. It's almost 3 o'clock p.m. The peak of passenger transport in Gdynia is quite a bottleneck. A lot of trains move through here towards Gdansk. And probably because of that, we'll have to wait our turn.
So, what does your work schedule look like? Is it 12 hours?
Yes, a maximum of 12 hours.
But counted from when?
It was usually counted from when boarding the locomotive. Yes, but in our company, we usually have fixed shifts, 7 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. or 8 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. And the night shift is 7 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. or 8 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock a.m. Relatively.
But if you start, let's say like today from Gdynia, and you don't live in Gdynia, you just slept in a hotel, yes, how does it usually look?
I slept in a hotel.
Okay, and the company also takes care of that for you, arranges it. It's just that you have to, let's say, get to the hotel earlier, and from the hotel, let's say, transport yourself here to the place, yes, or well.
If I were coming from home, it's also a matter of an hour and a half, so it's not that much travel time.
Well, yes, but there must be some kind of work schedule. For example, you have it planned out, like on certain days you'll be at work, and on others you can take a day off.
But I find out what I'm doing and where I'm going the day before from the dispatcher. So you also have to keep in mind that some flexibility is required as well. Yeah, well, let's say I finish work somewhere closer to the southern border. It would be a shame to waste time commuting home. Yeah, it's better to stay at the hotel and after crossing, catch our train if there's a train going home towards Gdynia. When someone looks from the outside, it might seem like these are just our engineer whims, that we get driven around by our employer and so on. But all of this is calculated, and because of that, we're used much more efficiently than if we worked under the same conditions as, for example, engineers in state-owned companies. It's just a bit simpler there. Passenger transport is simple since it's scheduled, but freight transport is much harder.
Whether it's a full-time job or you're paid by the kilometer or hour,
a fixed salary, an employment contract, a fixed salary, plus bonuses for hours, night kilometers, and also a general bonus. Altogether, it all adds up. Well, I think it's a bit definitely better than the national average. Not as much as our wives are able to spend, so let's put it diplomatically.
well, that's how much you have to earn, so they have something to spend.
Around 10,000 or so.
And to that we add, let's say, those extras in that direction.
An extra 4 kilometers as well.
Aha, traveled also.
Still, the kilometers traveled, so that's also a component.
So it's nicer that you're riding, still.
Yes.
Because wives generally have more money to spend.
To spend.
When they save up. For me, it's an unusual situation that you have to wait so long just to cross. Well, for you it's normal because whether you're standing or lying down, you still get paid, so it's fine. But for me, it's like this.
The company not necessarily.
Exactly. It wouldn't give me peace of mind that on one hand, this time is being wasted because you're not driving. If you're not making miles, it means it's not good. That's not the point right now. Let me ask, how do you actually become a train driver? Not just someone who stands, but one who drives.
The first stage is the train driver's license, and you can do it in 2 ways, so-called independently. There are training centers that organize courses for the train driver's license. You can also get hired if a carrier is interested, or if you are already employed but in a different position. For example, you can take such a course for a train driver's license. However, this is a document that basically doesn't entitle us to anything. This is just the prelude, the first step. The real challenges start with the train driver's certificate. Here you already have to be employed, and you need to spend a certain number of hours, days or months working as an observer and then take the exam.
Is this license for a specific machine like the one we're seeing here today and you can't operate a different one?
The license is for locomotives in general. If a new locomotive arrives for a given operator and we don't have authorization for it, every driver has to get authorized for that locomotive and we have to take an exam.
It's exactly 4 o'clock p.m. now. In the meantime, I ordered a pizza. I don't know if any of you, dear viewers, have ever ordered a pizza to a locomotive.
I delivered it.
I definitely delivered it. And we announced the pizza would arrive in 25 minutes, and in another 40 minutes we would depart. Will it work out? Keep your fingers crossed and be sure to stay until the end of this video. Life writes the script for this video, so we're constantly learning what the work and life of a train driver is like, and you're finding out what it looks like in reality. My dear friends, we've eaten the pizza, we can put it aside now.
We can see in the background
that the railway crossing is closing, which could mean that in a moment the signal will change to allow us to cross. The time is 4:52 p.m. Is something coming? Let's wait. They definitely won't close for no reason, but are we the reason for this closure?
It will be ours.
How do you know?
The solution has been postponed. Okay.
Okay, viewers, keep your fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed. We also want to get started together with you. Something's happening, something's... Hey, seriously, we sat here for almost 4 hours and now we're moving. Let's go, Mr. Engineer, let's go. Now let's stoke up the fire.
The fire turned green.
It was an amazing feeling to set off at a time like that.
It won't get any greener.
It won't. I was just thinking, since we're standing here, it's bright and nice, and you could say we're on the tracks at the depot. What if something like this happened in the forest? You stop for no reason and find yourself alone.
There is a problem in the Silesian agglomeration, as you know, with coal heaps and coal thefts. No one knows why. Young people always gather near the tracks. When it comes to two things, coal and fuel, it's quite like that. We have camera surveillance, you have to stay alert, and if something bad happens, you should inform the authorities. Because fighting bigger gangs on your own...
Right, and it's not like Mr. Zutek comes to the tank to siphon off some fuel for himself. It's usually organized crime groups. I have to ask about the advantages of this job, because I've already seen plenty of downsides today, like waiting around and waiting for your turn. From your point of view, what would you say is an advantage, for example?
Besides the fact that nothing drips on our heads, I think there are a lot of advantages. If someone likes this job, they're their own boss and captain, which I think is an added value. Not everyone likes teamwork, and here we're our own boss and captain. Where else do they pay us to stare out the window?
So each viewer has to decide for themselves whether that's a plus or a minus. Some people prefer to look at a computer or do something, dig, move around or whatever. And someone else just sits, rides and looks out the window. So what's out there? Have you ever seen any strange, bad or nice situations through that window? How about you?
Strange situations are when those 12 hours pass without any bad incidents. It's nice when nothing happens, we finish our shift calmly and go home. The unpleasant ones are all those events, starting from locomotive or wagon malfunctions, which cause some combat stress and disrupt our work. And then there are even worse events like derailments or accidents. I've experienced both types of derailments. Yeah.
So what if it derailed? Stripes?
Yes, stripes. And unfortunately accidents also happen, the worst kind, where people die, but that's just how it is. On one shift too, I know of such cases too.
On one shift?
On duty, 2 accidents as well. Well, these are sad stories, and here, compared to those crime novels and their horrors, this is not literary fiction, but there is always some human tragedy behind it. It's usually a tragedy for the families, for the people who die on the tracks, so maybe out of respect for them.
Sure.
Let's literally draw silence over this.
But in the railway, just like in mining, you have to be passionate about it to do this job. Or are there also railway workers by chance who just come to earn that 10 a month plus bonuses, and that's it?
I think that someone who doesn't like this job won't last long here. You have to be a bit of a railway nut. My father also worked on the railway, so when I was a beginner train driver, at home we talked about nothing else but the railway.
Is this a job handed down through generations in your case?
In my case, yes.
And what did your father do? Was he also a train driver? No?
No, not my father. He saw the mountains.
There. You need authorization for every route. I assume you have a lot of them since you travel all over Poland. Yes, yes.
Yes, and for quite a long time. Every year you gain more and more knowledge of the routes.
More and more. And how does one gain that knowledge? How do you get that authorization with the train driver?
Who has it? In domestic traffic you have to travel the given route twice and then you can drive on your own.
I'm halfway through authorization since I'm going one way, but I'd need to travel this route again to learn it. You get this authorization for 12 months, and if you travel the route again, you renew it. It's basically the same process, but what's important are the signals and remembering the curves.
On the railway there are no turns, only curves. It's an old railway saying. The placement of signals, especially at the station, the distances between those signals, and the speed limits that are on this route. If you know their locations very well, it really helps, especially as I said, when visibility is limited. And in freight traffic, it's also very important to remember the terrain, because there are places in this country where climbing with a freight train is really difficult.
Referring to those weather conditions, what time of year, what kind of weather is best for you? As a train driver?
The worst is autumn. Autumn when there's a lot of rain, moisture, and above all, leaves, because leaves are our worst enemy.
We cover kilometers and kilometers. We've already done 46 of them, my friends. Leave a thumbs up under this video. We've already put in quite a few hours and we still have a little less than an hour left to complete this 12-hour shift, the first 12-hour shift on the train. And I still had to get to the train and generally get to Gdynia from Gliwice. So appreciate that, leave a thumbs up, and we're still moving forward. I have to ask you, can I honk the horn?
Please be my guest.
Up or down?
It doesn't matter.
And those are two different sounds.
Yes, there's a low one and a high one.
Thank you very much. That was something beautiful. And that's how it is. Let's say you decide when to honk and if you see something. For example, like those kids who were jumping over those.
I can always do it if I see any danger, but I'm also obligated by the signaling indicators. Railway crossings, obviously, platforms are some critical spots, wild crossings. And then you can do it like this, and then you can do it like that.
You mentioned difficult weather conditions, which are the worst besides this autumn. Leaves.
Because exactly, Rajitsa, this is where knowing the trail is crucial, because there's such a thing as losing the trail. There may come a moment when we don't know where we are, at which point on the trail, and that's probably the worst thing for the driver, so you have to stay focused and concentrated all the time. Today, technology comes to our aid, this ETCSU system, which informs us several kilometers ahead about the signals of the semaphores, about the clear track, is also very useful.
But such a distance, let's say, I don't know, when there's really thick fog, from one pole to another, you can see, or is it damn that you only have a few meters of visibility in front of your eyes?
Like now, would we only see the semaphore at the last moment? At the speed we're going now, yes, we have a speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour here because of exceeded axle loads, that's fine, but at a speed of 160, there's no chance to stop. But of course, the train driver is a thinking being, and that's why he's here, to approach the signal at such a speed that he can stop the train. There's a nice saying that the train driver is the last person who can notice, prevent, or reduce the effects of an accident or disaster. We brake, and then there's this moment of helplessness. We can't do anything more about it. We see that someone is stepping in, and we just can't do anything about it anymore. The only thing left is to wait if it's something that doesn't threaten us. But sometimes it's a truck, and then there's nothing to wait for, so what then? Then you have to evacuate to the engine compartment, lie down on the floor, and hope that nothing happens. There are two schools of thought on how to react. In theory, since no one knows how they'll react until it's actually tested, and hopefully it never is. But some train drivers have always said they'd go for the door and the handrails. That if the speed is still reasonable enough, you can jump out of the locomotive. And just hope that somehow you land safely, okay? They prefer that solution rather than staying here inside the metal, especially in case of a bigger impact. Unfortunately, being there means you're farther from the crumple zone. But still, all those devices that are installed there often break off from the screws and the floor. A lot of things can shift around there as well. As we can see, there's little space.
But we have a beautiful locomotive, clear tracks ahead, and we're going 38 kilometers per hour.
That's already something. We're pulling out of the switches. We have to wait until the last car leaves the switch because the signal required us to go through the switch at a speed of up to 40 kilometers per hour. The whole train.
So we could already be 500 meters further, but we still have to keep that speed.
There are two options. I mean, yes, exactly 513 meters.
Oh, right. Where are we even going? Because, yeah, we actually started pretty late.
So straight ahead as far as possible.
We won't get there anyway, but Czesław, what's the plan for this schedule?
Schedule? The train is intended for Piotrków Trybunalski station to Piotrków, but we probably
We'll only get as far as...
At most. No, not Bydgoszcz, and I think even Bydgoszcz is out of reach for us. Maybe at best somewhere like Laskowice Pomorski.
Today we're transporting 30 wagons of oil, but you as Olavian, part of the Unimot group, what else do you transport? What do you do?
Because we're a carrier for a company that specializes in importing fuels, hydrocarbons in general, meaning fuels and gases, that's why. We mainly specialize in transporting diesel oil, gasoline, and gases. We also transport grain, cars, basically everything that's available on the open market whenever we have the opportunity. When we have available nights, locomotives, and goods to transport, we'll quickly take advantage of the opportunity.
But for you as a train driver, does it make a difference what you're transporting?
Generally, the driving technique is a bit different if we're transporting liquid products versus solid products, which behave more predictably in the wagons and don't sway as much. It's a bit more comfortable to drive with those.
But as for the weight, or let's say the length, for you it doesn't make a difference.
No, I always say that it's the locomotive that pulls the train, not me. I just drive it. Well, obviously driving an empty train is much more pleasant and easier. Basically, you just set the cruise control and it will pretty much drive itself. But with a loaded train, especially when carrying fuel, you can't allow yourself to do that. Because the algorithms that calculate speed and adjust the locomotive's power cause pulsating acceleration and deceleration, calculating the power, and the cars start to push forward. Here, it comes down to the previously mentioned underwear elastic.
Today we don't have much time left to drive, so we'll get to a certain point. And what next? We're waiting for a car or taxi. As a worker, where are you headed and what are you doing?
The company car has already left. Most likely my colleague who is replacing me will already be waiting at the station where we'll switch. I hand over the train to him, get in the car and go back to Gdansk, to the hotel, for the night, to rest, and tomorrow I take the next train.
And with the commute to and from work, those 12 hours turn into, well, I think 14 or 15.
Sometimes yes, but the other way around, sometimes it's different too. It happens that within those 12 hours, we still have enough time to bring the train in, park the locomotive, finish work, and sometimes even be home already.
So it's quite a flexible work system, of course. Everything is overseen by the labor code and the law, but you can see that it's pretty flexible. It suits you, since you've worked in this industry for years?
Because of the nature of the job, we can see how it looks today. It's hard to set a work schedule in freight transport with 100% certainty. Here, this flexibility also has to be a bit on our side, and probably for this reason it's also a fact that maybe we earn a little bit more than engineers who work in a more rigid system.
And that's where our engineer story ends. I mean mine, because yours will still go on as long as possible. What do we do now after finishing work?
Now we fill out the logbook at the station, we write down the kilometers, and if there were any faults, fortunately we didn't have any, we would note them too, so we just fill out the logbook. In a moment, a colleague will arrive, we hand over the locomotive, and our story for today comes to an end.
As we mentioned in this episode, sometimes you do 600 kilometers, sometimes 0, and today, over 12 hours, we did 136 kilometers.
So that's about 1/3 of what we could have done.
As we showed and said, 12 hours have just passed. It's 7:01 p.m. We clock out, hand over the locomotive to the next engineer, and he just comes in here as usual.
Takes over the locomotive, just like we did at the start, except he doesn't have to do all the device checks and procedures.
So he just gets in and drives.
He checks things briefly, fills out the logbook, and reports in.
So now he can definitely cover a lot more kilometers.
By morning he'll reach Piotrków-Trybunalski, where the train is headed. He should get there without any problems.
And we'll take a taxi to the hotel. And you, my dear viewers, check out the episode I made in the meantime, which is about the work of a train inspector. It appears here, so make sure to watch it. Thank you very much. Make sure to leave a like on this episode, subscribe to the channel, and watch that other episode about the work of a train inspector.